Everyone thought he was a mediocre F-rank adventurer, but he found the ability to summon a level goddess so that she could turn him into a master without having to grind and earn money. Kaito is a young man who dreams of becoming an adventurer in hopes of earning a lot of money and fame. However, his life is not lucky. Even though he has worked every day for 2 years, he is still stuck on the first floor of the dungeon. As usual, Kaito walked to the cave and slowly crawled towards a Slim on the ground. Instead of using a sword or knife, he pulled out a can of mosquito spray and sprayed both cans into the Slim's face until it disintegrated from the world. He was proud that he had now become a master at killing Slims. As expected, this was the 999th Slim he had sprayed to death since entering the dungeon. He was determined to reach the 1000 Slim milestone and went deeper into the dungeon. Suddenly, he saw a yellow Slim on a pole. Excited that he was lucky enough to find a rare species for the 1000th Slim milestone, he quickly realized that it would not be easy to eat it. He tried to spray it, but the Slim jumped off the tree. Undeterred, Kaito brought a new spray that increased the concentration by 10 times and sprayed the Slim to death. He celebrated his 1000th Slim and eagerly opened the index to check his rank, but realized that his level was still low even though he had killed the yellow Slim. He decided not to ignore it anymore, hoping that it would at least drop some good items. Instead of a common item, he found a small yellow card with a picture of a girl on it. At first, he was a bit confused, but soon he realized that this was a servant card, a very rare item. He checked the number and found out that this servant was a Valkyrie class, and her name was Sylphie. He tried to search but found that there was no information about her online. He decided to leave the dungeon and research more information. A group of adventurers passed by him in beautiful armor, and Kaito could only look at him with envy. He wondered how long it would take him to buy something like that. He went to the reception desk to get money to buy Slim's core. The receptionist, Hitsugaya, gave him 500 yen for each Slim's core, a total of 1500 yen, less than the allowance his mother gave him. Kaito took it anyway and walked out. He suddenly stopped and asked Hitsugaya if she knew the average price of a rare servant card, especially if the servant was a saint. Hitsugaya thought for a while and then said that such a card was very collectible and would be worth more than 1,000,000,000 yen. He was startled when he heard that, but remained silent. He went back to the locker and put his things away and changed his daily clothes and left the area. It turns out that the dungeon is part of an amusement park, where people can become members and go inside to explore and find valuable items. A few kids walk around in costumes talking about how they want to be adventurers in the future, but Kaito is lost in his thoughts about the card. While waiting for the train, he meets 2 friends, Shinji and Hayato, and the 3 of them board the train. Kaito tells them that he is still stuck on level 3 and asks them why he hasn't gone exploring any dungeons. Hayato replies that 2 years ago, when they were exploring the dungeon, they went to the 2nd floor and found a goblin. They thought it would be easy prey, but the goblin ended up beating them up alone. From then on, both Shinji and Hayato decided that dungeons weren't for weaklings like them and found exploring other places much more interesting. That night, Kaito gets off the train and walks home. He has dinner with his family, showers, and goes to sleep. The next morning, he is still wondering if he should sell the card, because 1,000,000,000 yen can get you all the armor you want and you can buy as many games as you want. His train of thought was interrupted by a voice, which turned out to be his friend Katsuragi's, asking him where he was last night. He decided to lie and say that he was hanging out with his friends Shinji and Hayato. Unfortunately for him, the 2 friends suddenly walked up to him. Kaito immediately pulled the 2 aside and begged them not to tell Katsuragi that he went dungeon diving yesterday, to which they both agreed. However, when Katsuragi asked what the 3 of them did, they all answered stupidly to show that they were players. Katsuragi immediately realized that they were upset, so she asked Kaito if he was planning on going to the dungeon again. But he continued to be cunning and luckily escaped. After that day at school, he asked his friends what they were going to do with the servant card, and they immediately replied that they were going to sell it because it was valuable. After all, they couldn't summon servants outside the dungeon. Kaito thought about whether he should sell the item. When he entered the dungeon that day, he decided to keep it because he wanted to become the strongest adventurer in the world. He dodged the surveillance and took out his card to call Sylphie, Valkyrie, as his servant and obeyed his orders. Suddenly, the card glows and a bright stream of light emits, transformed into a giant girl with feathered wings on her back. She seemed to be in her divine form, and she grabbed Kaito and disappeared instantly. Kaito was confused as to what was going on when he suddenly turned around and saw a little girl in armor standing beside him. He asked who she was, wondering why there were small children here, But the girl who answered her was Valkyrie Sylphie, who would be his servant from now on. All hopes of becoming a strong adventurer were dashed, and he regretted not selling the card. He decided to calm down and stood up and said they needed to hunt some Slim. She immediately said that she sensed one nearby, so Kaido decided to test her intuition and told her to take him to see it. Sylphie easily locates Slim, so Kaido asks if she can kill it for him, and she immediately agreed. Kaido didn't expect much from this girl, but in the face of his bluntness, Sylphie unleashed a lightning strike so devastating that Kaido thought the cave was about to collapse. Kaido walked towards her, asking her if she was okay, but she blushed and said she was hungry and wanted to eat something. Kaido looked at her and remembered that the servant was going to eat the mana core, so he fed her Slim's mana core. She thanked him and said there were a few more Slims nearby. He asked her if she had regained her strength. She nodded and left. Kaido stopped her and asked if she had only discovered Slim. Sylphie immediately said that she had discovered all the monsters in the world, not just the Slims. However, after each battle she would feel hungry and need to eat mana cores. Kaido calculates and realizes this method is completely useless because they won't earn anything by hunting Slim. He comes up with a plan and tells Sylphie to track down the Slim for him, and she is happy to do. Then he used a spray bottle to spray them to death one by one. This seems to be the best way to do it because the search for Slim is already tired. But this way, he can save time by heading directly to the target and letting them stop breathing with a nasal spray. After killing a series of Slims, he reaches level 4 and gains a new passive skill called Slim's Killing Master, helping him increase his stats by 50% when fighting against Slim. He was depressed because of his weak skill, but Sylphie cheered him up and said that he was happy to have this skill. He looked at her and smiled, thanking her for her help, and said that he would go home since it was too late. Sylphie looked at him and asked if he would summon her again, and he promised to summon her as soon as possible. He then called her back to the card near him. He turned around and stopped at the front desk to sell the mana core. Hitsugaya was surprised when he said that he had broken his own record for killing Slim and asked how he did it. Kaido lied and told him to be lucky. Then he took the reward and went home. Late at night, he thought about going to the second floor of the dungeon. Although the goblins were scary, he believed that Sylphie was much stronger than them, and with her, he could defeat them. That night, he dreams about his childhood memories of sitting in front of the TV with Katsuragi, while the reporter interviews Katsuragi's father, a famous adventurer. That interview surprised Kaido, and he decided to follow in his footsteps, becoming an adventurer himself. The next morning, he woke up with a strong belief in life and went to the second floor of the dungeon with Sylphie with his newly purchased sword and shield. He decided to continue cleaning the dungeons on his way to becoming the world's most famous adventurer. They entered the cave and walked for a while, when Sylphie noticed something was wrong and asked Kaido if everything was okay since he looked pale and shaking. Kaido seemed to be afraid of the cave, but he was shaking with excitement. However, just as Sylphie said that she sensed a goblin nearby, the young man turned around and ran away. Sylphie asked him what he was doing, but Kaido blatantly lied to her face and told him that he had urgent business to attend to. He suddenly remembered Katsuragi's father in the TV interview and stopped, deciding that he couldn't be so cowardly and give up on his dream so easily. He grabbed his wooden sword and told Sylphie to lead the way. They soon found the goblin sleeping behind a large rock. But Kaido was too cowardly to do anything about it, so he asked Sylphie to help him deal with it. She immediately agreed and chanted a spell as the goblin woke up, ready to fight it. They were interrupted by Kaido, who jumped in between, telling Sylphie that he had changed his mind but told her to stay by his side in time to bury his body. He charged at the goblin, but missed as the goblin backed away. This time the goblin attacked and tried to suck Kaido into the ground, but he blocked the attack with his shield at the last second. They struggled for a while, but Kaido slowly got up and pushed the goblin away. As it fell to the ground, Kaido immediately tried to take advantage as it charged with his sword, but even this time, his sword was blocked by the goblin. It grabbed Kaido and disarmed him and stabbed him. Kaido fell backwards without being able to defend himself, but he remembered that he still had a nasal spray, so he quickly took it out and sprayed it in the monster's eyes. The goblin was bitter-eyed, giving Kaido the opportunity to deliver his final blow. However, when he grabbed the sword and rushed towards the goblin, he eventually stumbled over a rock and fell face down to the floor, accidentally stabbing the goblin in the chest, killing it there. Sylphie congratulated Kaido, but he was still trembling and grabbed the crystal, thanking his grandparents that he was still alive. Suddenly, a golden light came from him, and he realized that he had leveled up. He checks his stats again and discovers that he has received a new skill called Goblin Slayer. He was discouraged again, because this skill was also bad, but it was better than nothing, and he moved on. They went deeper into the cave where another goblin attacked them, but Sylphie used the defensive barrier to block the attack, while Kaido slashed the perfect sword to destroy the monster. Kaido then kills the third goblin by using a spray bottle to temporarily blind it, and then rushes into the flesh. Later, Sylphie pulled him to a new enemy. Kaido also killed this goblin with a sword blow to the head, and in the process, Kaido was promoted to level 6. They walk away again, and Kaido asks her if she knows anything about these dungeons, but Sylphie replies that she doesn't know anything, and all she knows is that her only purpose is to help her master. They went deeper inside, where they found the last goblin of the day. It attacks Kaido while Sylphie uses lightning magic to destroy the monster. Kaido fed her the mana core and went out. He gave the crystal to Hitsugaya. He was lucky enough to return home again, and his whole body was in so much pain that he was bedridden. The next morning, he dragged himself to school with Katsuragi. She immediately realized that he must have gone to the dungeon, but he denied it and said that he had just exercised at the gym, so his whole body was aching. Katsuragi decided to leave him alone and left. After arriving at class, Kaido told Shinji and Hayato about their new adventure in the level 2 dungeon, and that he had also killed 4 goblins. They were surprised and did not believe that Kaido was telling the truth, but this time he was 100% right. He did not cheat anymore and said that he would go deeper today. After school, he returned to the dungeon with Sylphie and explored the far parts of the cave. They tried to kill the goblins again by working as a team. Sylphie blocked the attacks while Kaido delivered the finishing blow. When Kaido was exhausted, Sylphie would finish the monster off with lightning magic. After the trip, he slept like a log at night and the next day upgraded to a new metal rod that dealt more damage to goblins. But because of exhaustion, he fell asleep in class. However, he was determined to continue the adventure. Not to fail, he went straight into the dungeon day after day, killing goblins by all means until he reached level 10, and that was a milestone for him. This time, he received a special skill called Supreme Love, which increased his stats at every level. The enhancement ability directly depends on the amount of love and care the goddess has for him, so he immediately decided to confess that he was extremely happy to be able to go on an adventure with an individual at the top, with his feet flying like Sylphie. She naively did not understand that the young man was manipulating her psychology and happily thanked him for letting her stay with him, as she enjoyed working with him. Then the next monster they saw turned out to be a glowing skeleton that they had never faced before. Kaido told her to be careful, and she immediately deployed her magic shield as the skeleton charged at them. It crashed into the barrier and tried to break it, but then it broke. Kaido decided to attack. Unfortunately, his attack was ineffective as his weapon was too weak against this rare species, so he asked Sylphie to help him dispose of it. She immediately cast a spell, shooting a bolt of lightning that killed it instantly. This time, the mana core that dropped was bright red. He wondered if it was rare, but decided to give it to Sylphie, and she said that it was much more delicious than usual. Later that day, when he went to Hitsugaya with the day's loot, he asked about the mana core that dropped from the glowing skeleton, and she replied that it was a rather rare item that could easily be sold for 2 million yen. Kaido's heart ached as he knew that he had just thrown the chance to become a millionaire into Sylphie's mouth. However, Hitsugaya told him not to worry, because if he encountered that skeleton once, he would most likely encounter it again. That night, he was troubled by the money he lost but decided to ignore it since he was still promoted a lot. He wondered if he could move to the 3rd floor now, but he knew that on the 3rd floor, enemies appeared in groups and could be much more dangerous. Keeping this in mind, the next day he told Sylphie that he wanted her to just observe and do nothing for a while. She was afraid that Kaido would think she did something wrong and apologized to him, but Kaido said that he just wanted to go to the 3rd floor, but he was afraid that he would depend too much on Sylphie. He wanted to be stronger than before. Sylphie was relieved to hear that and wished him luck. Suddenly, a goblin appeared from behind a rock. Kaido confidently told Sylphie to stand there and watch him deal with it, but his plan failed miserably and he was severely injured. So he had to buy medicine from Hitsugaya, and his hard-earned savings were washed away into the blue sea. That night, he thought he needed a lot of mana cores to feed Sylphie as well as equip him better. So he decided to go back to the dungeon and enter that floor again to kill as many slimes as possible to gain more skills, levels, and mana cores. After many days of hard work in the dungeon, he was finally able to collect enough mana cores to safely move to the 3rd floor. However, before they could leave the cave, Sylphie said that she sensed another Slim, and his intuition was right as Kaido saw a silver Slim not far away. He immediately sprayed Slim with his gun, but Slim was faster to dodge. Luckily, Sylphie was waiting, and used lightning magic to strike Slim to death. To their surprise, Slim finally dropped another servant card. This one was really lucky. Kaido picked up the card and saw that it was a ghost-level card of a servant named Luceria. He looked around and saw that Sylphie seemed a bit stunned when he saw the card, and he realized that the demon and the goddess couldn't get along. But then, he still dropped the flag and just did as he pleased, since he was the one with the right to summon the demon servant right there. A huge red flame engulfed them. From there, a giant demon appeared and flew straight past Kaido in her divine form, just like what happened to Sylphie. He looked down again and saw that this little girl was exactly like Sylphie, but this time she had bat wings and horns on her head. Realizing that his party would now be invincible since there was both a demon and a goddess, Loli looked at him and introduced herself as a witch, Luceria, and asked Kaido if he was the one who called her. Kaido asked if she could transform into a real adult girl since he liked the variety, but she insisted. He was frustrated with his life as he knelt on the ground, depressed because his dream was to have a proud girl in his life. He calmly stood up and introduced himself, but Luceria criticized him harshly for not considering him a reliable shoulder. Kaido was angry that she was too right to argue, while Sylphie hid behind him, gently telling Luceria not to talk to her beloved master like that. Luceria spoke awkwardly because of the nature of female demons, so if they were injured, it was because they were too stressed. Sylphie felt more comfortable and introduced herself to the demon woman. Luceria examined her and realized that she was a god-level servant. Soon after, she turned to Kaido and asked him for food because she was hungry. Kaido said that she hadn't done anything yet, so she was hungry. At that moment, Sylphie sensed a Slim nearby and informed them. They hid behind a rock to check if it was a normal Slim, but Luceria wasn't as cautious as the two of them. She walked out in a daze and summoned a trident in her hand. She then created a fireball that shot at Slim, causing a huge explosion while Sylphie and Kaido stood there and watched. Kaido walked over and gave her the mana core, but she demanded another core. Kaido said that he had nothing else to do, and Luceria got upset and said that she didn't like cheap things. Kaido told her to show him another of her skills and promised to feed her the mana core if she did. She sighed but noticed a goblin running towards her, so she used decomposition on it. The magic destroyed the goblin, causing it to rot to the ground with a terrifying pop, causing both Sylphie and Kaido to fray. Kaido fed her another mana core and she got this taste. She immediately demanded to go deeper to hunt more monsters. Kaido told her to throw it back and asked her if she knew anything about these dungeons, but she replied that she knew nothing about this world. He said that at the third level, the monsters attacked in groups and to deal with that, they needed to be better equipped. She didn't seem to care much and still wanted to go deeper, but Kaido said they would explore that floor the next day. She didn't like to wait, but Kaido managed to convince her and she agreed not to go any further for the next 2 days. The next morning, they entered the third floor of the dungeon. Kaido's heart was pounding in his chest. However, he was confident in the abilities of the two maids and had also purchased some new equipment, such as this crossbow. Sylphie said that beautiful crossbow and Kaido seemed proud of it because it cost his father. Suddenly, they hear a growl and spot two hellhounds on the corner looking for prey. Kaido decided to fire the first shot after escaping from hiding, but the lightning missed the monsters and they immediately ran at full speed towards him. Kaido then fed her a mana core and she demanded another one. Kaido told her to wait because he couldn't feed her all the mana cores, so they went deeper into the cave. Soon, they spotted the demonic wild boar running at full speed towards them, but Luceria was still ready for everything as usual. With just a trident, she blew away the wild boars. Unfortunately, a wild boar managed to dodge the attack and run out of the fire at full speed. Luceria is ready to make another attack, but Kaido says he will deal with it and aim for the target. This time when he fired, the arrow actually hit the target and blinded the wild boar in one eye. This wasn't enough to defeat the demon boar. It was even more enraged and ran to Kaido for revenge. Kaido tried to reload his crossbow, but ended up stumbling and falling to the floor. Just as the boar was about to attack him, he fired another shot that hit the boar right in the head, killing it just a few centimeters away from him. Sylphie praised him for his first kill on this floor, and he had now reached level 11. Luceria criticized him for falling, and then demanded more mana cores. After leaving the dungeon that day, he went outside and overheard some girls talking about reaching level 6 of the dungeon by forming a party instead of going solo. He wondered if he would level up faster by organizing a team. That day, he went back to the dungeon, and as usual, Luceria was very diligent. She used explosions to eliminate any monsters in their way. This time, even Sylphie used lightning magic to shock the demon boar to death. Luceria, not wanting anyone to outdo her, immediately used decomposition magic to kill 2 more rat-like monsters. Sylphie and Kaito were still horrified by the scene, but still received their share of mana cores. Luceria then demanded more food. They continued to defeat more monsters and received more mana cores as rewards. Kaito noticed that Sylphie seemed a bit out of place. He asked if everything was okay, but she immediately changed the subject, saying she had spotted some hellhound nearby. That night, after returning home, he wondered if Sylphie was avoiding him for some reason. He suddenly thought that perhaps Sylphie, being a goddess, and Luceria, being a demon, were incompatible. He wondered what he would do if they both went at each other, and decided to use their divine abilities against one another. The thought scared him, and he couldn't sleep that night because he was so troubled by it. The next morning, while walking towards school, Katsu met him and asked if he had slept well the night before. She said if he was worried about something, she could help him. This touched his heart, and he decided to use his friend as an example. He said that Shinji had 2 female friends. One was sweet and kind, while the other was ruthless and malicious. They didn't get along, and he was worried that they might end up clashing with each other. Katsu seemed puzzled, but asked if the 2 girls had said they didn't like each other. If not, she suggested that he should ask them directly. Kaito decided to do so that day, and only met with Sylphie in the dungeon. She looked around and asked where Luceria was. Kaito said he hadn't called her yet, because he wanted to have a private conversation with her. She seemed a bit puzzled, but asked him what he wanted to discuss. So Kaito decided to get straight to the point and asked her if she liked Luceria. Sylphie was surprised and said she actually did like Luceria. At first, she found Luceria a bit fierce, but after Luceria told her not to be so sensitive about her words, they became friends, and now she really liked Luceria a lot. Kaito moved closer and asked if something was making her sad. She shook her head, insisting that nothing was bothering her, but Kaito continued to press, saying she seemed worried about something and that she was very important to him. Sylphie was a bit emotional and said that recently, Kaito had been much kinder to Luceria than to her, so she wanted to be treated the same way. Katsu didn't think Kaito had treated them differently, but Sylphie insisted that he had been very nice to Luceria, always talking a lot to her, and giving her extra mana cores. She said that before Luceria appeared, he used to talk a lot with her, but now he mostly only talked to Luceria and ignored her. Kaito realized his mistake and promised to be fair and talk to Sylphie more. Then, he proved he was someone who kept his word by complimenting both Luceria and Sylphie, and even praised Sylphie for her quick thinking and saving his life. This time, Luceria demanded justice, claiming he had never praised her in that way, so eventually, he praised her for having strong magic and defeating many monsters. They quickly advanced, and Sylphie killed a few more hellhounds, leveling up in the process. Both Kaito and Luceria congratulated her, and Kaito decided to test her new strength. They ventured deeper into the dungeon and immediately encountered 3 hellhounds. From a distance, Sylphie stepped out and used her magic to completely annihilate all 3 hellhounds. However, while they were celebrating, Kaito sensed something and told Sylphie to raise her shield immediately. A monster emerged from the bushes and attacked the shield, but the level 2 shield was too tough for it. Meanwhile, Luceria took out her trident to finish off the remaining enemies, but Kaito said he wanted to handle it and shot the wild boar in the head, killing it instantly. Afterward, he gave Sylphie a mana core. She had developed a growing appetite for them, and because of this, he nearly couldn't sell any cores. He decided to return to the level 1 dungeon to collect a few more cores with a nasal spray, and Hitsu was surprised when he came back to sell them. She mentioned that, in her opinion, he could now venture into level 4 of the dungeon, which surprised Kaito. That night, he browsed the internet looking for better equipment, but everything was too expensive for him. So he decided to return to the dungeon the next day. While passing through level 1 of the dungeon, he unexpectedly discovered a rare slime again, and told the 2 girls not to let it escape. Luceria and Sylphie both surrounded the monster and used magic together, destroying the slime. This time, the slime dropped a mana core. Kaito happily picked it up and decided to use it. He threw it on the ground and immediately gained a new magic skill called water magic. He decided to test it out in the level 3 dungeon, where he encountered a pack of hellhounds. He instructed Sylphie to create a barrier while Luceria prepared to kill the monsters if they survived Kaito's attack. The hellhounds spotted the group and charged at them, so Kaito fired a stream of water. Surprisingly, the stream of water didn't even affect the hellhounds. They just shook the water off and charged again. Luckily, Luceria dealt with them with her fire magic. Sylphie tried to cheer Kaito up by saying that learning magic was an achievement in itself. However, Kaito is not very enthusiastic about his new power and decides to go home to think of a better way to use his new magic to defeat monsters. The next day, Kaito returns to the dungeon to practice his water ball magic. First, he throws a water ball at the wall at a very slow speed, and it does nothing more than cool the wall. Kaito is exhausted after just one spell, but continues to practice. On his second try, he shoots the water ball as fast as he can. Both he and Sylphie are satisfied with the results, but Luceria is not impressed. After only 2 water balls, Kaito runs out of mana and collapses. He quickly goes home to sleep. In his dream, Kaito recalls his childhood and watches Katsu's father on TV, aspiring to become an adventurer like him. Motivated by the dream, he returns to the dungeon the next day and practices his water ball attacks again. Today, he was significantly faster and fired several water balls at the dungeon walls before running out of mana. He took a break but planned to return to training as soon as he regained his strength. This time, he tried to shape the water ball into a cube. Delighted by this success, Kaito continued to experiment and create various shapes for the water ball, but he quickly grew tired and fell to the ground. As he was leaving the dungeon dazed, he stumbled and fell into the arms of an adventurer. He quickly got up and apologized, but the adventurer only asked if he was okay. Kaito said he was fine and asked to leave, but the adventurer was worried about him since he didn't look well at all. However, her teammates were happy to see such a dedicated young man and proceeded into the dungeon. Later, Kaito fell asleep in class. When the teacher woke him up, he loudly declared that he would try his best to make the whole class laugh today. During the break, his friends approached him and asked what shocking statement he had made earlier. Kaito told them he was practicing an important skill for success in the dungeon. Just then, Katsu came up and asked if he was training to enter the dungeon, but Kaito cleverly said he was actually talking about dance practice. Katsu was relieved and just reminded him not to overexert himself. She asked him to show her the dance performance someday and to leave the boys alone. The next day, Kaito returned to the dungeon and used the water sphere in a real battle. He used it to shoot at a grime beast, but instead of exploding as usual, the water sphere retained its shape and blocked all the beast's breathing holes, causing it to suffocate to death. Both Sylphie and Luceria praised him highly, but soon Kaito noticed he wasn't receiving any more experience from the monsters on level 3, which meant it was time to move on to level 4. Thinking that he needed better equipment for level 4, he decided to buy something he had been considering for a long time. The next day, he went to the dungeon wearing a tight-fitting outfit. While Sylphie said the outfit suited him, Luceria trampled on his pride by mocking him and commenting on how clumsy he looked. Kaito explained that the outfit was very expensive because it was made from nano-carbon fibers, which helped protect him from most damage while being thin and lightweight. He mentioned that the full bodysuit offered excellent protection against arrows and other piercing damage. Along with that, he had a magic amplification bracelet that made even his weak spells a bit stronger. However, he hadn't tested it yet since there was no opportunity to do so. Kaito then showed off other items he had purchased, like a potion, but Luceria pulled Sylphie away because she was tired of hearing him brag and didn't want to listen to him flex anymore. Eventually, they reached level 4, where Sylphie spotted a terrifying, large-headed monster approaching them. Before Kaito could check the monster encyclopedia to see what they were about to face, an Uffcell-sized cockroach emerged, causing the 2 girls to cling to each other in fear. They continuously cast magic at the cockroach as they rushed through the dungeon. Kaito ran after them, scared of being left behind. Sylphie and Luceria were resting after their efforts and almost attacked Kaito, who was running towards them. Sylphie ran to hug Kaito, saying she was scared, but Luceria maintained her act of being unafraid of the small cockroaches. Sylphie then apologized to Kaito for abandoning him in the dungeon and asked him to scold her. He told her he wasn't angry because they had cleared level 4 after the encounter with the cockroach and he had collected various mana cores from all the defeated monsters. Luceria said she wouldn't eat the disgusting things, but since she was very hungry, she ended up eating them all despite her reluctance. The mana cores smelled terrible as expected, and then Kaito suggested that since they had time, they should scout level 5 a bit. Sylphie sensed a sand monster and a mud monster nearby, and Kaito aimed his crossbow at them. His first arrow missed, but the second arrow pierced the sand monster. It immediately attacked him. Kaito shouted Sylphie's name, and she quickly erected a barrier to protect him. Kaito believed that the 2 monsters were immune to physical attacks, so he sought Luceria's help. She defeated them with fire attacks. Kaito asked if she needed to replenish her mana, but both Luceria and Sylphie would rather die than use that cursed stuff. They continued exploring the 5th floor, but it seemed there were no more monsters nearby. Shortly afterward, Sylphie noticed something unusual on the wall, but Kaito didn't find anything special about it. Sylphie decided to blow a hole in the wall with a lightning attack. To their surprise, it led them to a secret passage. They entered, and Kaito advised the two girls to be careful not to step on any traps. But just as he was speaking, Luceria informed him it was too late because she had stepped on a trap, resulting in an arrow being fired. However, instead of hitting Luceria, it struck Kaito, causing him to roll on the ground in pain. The two attendants were worried about him, but Kaito recovered after a few minutes as his full-body suit protected him from serious harm. They continued forward, but Luceria triggered another trap. This time, Kaito stepped back to avoid the arrows but was startled. Nevertheless, he was fine after the shock and felt full of energy. Luceria told him not to make her worry. Kaito asked if she had just said she was worried about him, but she switched to her default mode. Soon, they arrived at a large gate with a painting on it, and Sylphie could sense a powerful presence from beyond. Kaito decided to head back, but the two girls wouldn't let him. He tried to open the gate, but it wouldn't budge, so Sylphie blew it open with an attack. Kaito sincerely hoped he wouldn't be accused of vandalizing the dungeon's property. They entered and encountered two boss monsters, one being a red goblin, and the other a giant slime. Kaito refused to back down after coming this far, and told the two girls to take down the red goblin first. They fired lightning and fire attacks at the goblin, but it seemed hardly injured due to its immunity to skill damage. It suddenly charged at them, but Sylphie's barrier skill blocked its attack. Kaito instructed Luceria to deal with the giant slime, and then try using it against the red goblin. Each arrow he shot at the goblin significantly reduced its health, but he soon ran out of arrows. The red goblin viciously smashed the barrier. Meanwhile, Luceria was also struggling as she had to deal with the giant slime alone. In a last-ditch effort, Kaito decided to rely on a water ball. He created a water ball, but it froze due to the effects of the bracelet. He shot the ice ball at the red goblin, weakening its defenses. However, he soon realized that he was running out of mana. So Kaito manipulated the shape of the ice balls and turned them into sharp icicles, dealing more damage to the red goblin. With the last 3 shots, Kaito defeated the red goblin, leaving only the slime. As the slime prepared to attack Luceria, Kaito protected her with his shield. He held the slime back and instructed Sylphie to prepare a spear attack. His shield and equipment melted, but then Sylphie charged at the slime with her spear, piercing through it. However, even that did not cause much damage to the monster. Kaito wanted to give up but remembered his hero and rushed forward, dodging the slime's attacks and using the mosquito spray to finish it off. Despite its large size, it was still just a slime. The slime's health continued to decrease and Sylphie protected Kaito with a magical barrier. After using the first 2 bottles, Kaito took out 2 powerful mosquito sprays from his bag and sprayed the slime's face fiercely. Eventually, the slime's health bar was depleted, and it died. The 2 girls happily hugged Kaito, but accidentally hurt his injured shoulder. He drank a healing potion to recover. Luceria leveled up shortly after, and Kaito checked his stats, noting that he had also leveled up considerably. He quickly moved to collect the mana cores and found the red core of the goblin, confident that it would fetch a good price. While searching for the core of the slime, he instead discovered a rare magical sword that resembled more a meat cleaver like the one his mother used than a proper sword. Kaito then brought the red goblin mana core to Hitsu. She was curious about where he had found it. He told her about discovering a hidden dungeon on the 5th floor and defeating the boss there. Hitsu said they would immediately investigate the dungeon and then informed Kaito that the red mana core was worth a lot. He was pleased to hear this, and then Hitsu gave him another piece of good news. She invited him to participate in an event the following week, where they would attempt to clear the 7th floor as a team. The following week, he attended the event and coincidentally encountered the 3 girls from that day. Their team leader introduced herself as Eri, the pink-haired cat girl was Miku, and the last member was Hikarin. Kaito also introduced himself and wondered if they were members of the same team. Katsuragi, also known as Haruka, dreams of a scene from her childhood when her father was about to leave the house. On that day, he had promised to come home early and have dinner with Katsuragi. After her father left, Haruka woke up. That day, Katsuragi had a study group appointment with her friend Yumi. As she left the house, Katsuragi looked towards Takagi Kaito's house and guessed that he was probably practicing dance or working out. At the dungeon, the participants of the event had arrived and formed a line, including Kaito, Eri, Miku, and Hikarin. The 4 of them held hands, and thanks to Kaito's ability to use teleportation, they successfully arrived at a safe place quickly. This was only Kaito's 2nd time using this ability, so he was quite anxious. Eri's group was also preparing. At the dungeon gate, the receptionist directed them to go down to the 7th floor and informed them that the event was expected to last for 3 hours. Before heading down, there was a convenience store at the transfer gate for anyone who needed to shop. The girls wondered why Kaito was carrying so much stuff, while Kaito wondered why they were carrying so little. The girls explained that they had magical bags that could hold many items but still looked compact on the outside. Kaito was amazed because the price of a magical bag was equivalent to an apartment. It turned out that the 3 girls were from wealthy families who bought valuable items for them. Eri complimented Kaito for carrying many items, but Kaito modestly said it was just from working hard and saving money from selling magic stones. Eri took out a sharp spear from her magical bag, and the 4 of them prepared to descend to the 7th floor. The monsters on this floor were mainly golems. As they walked, they noticed some movement ahead. Kaito thought it was a golem, but it turned out to be dungeon staff. They greeted each other, and the staff encouraged them to do their best. Kaito introduced himself as level 16 and inquired about the others. Eri was also level 16, Hikarin was level 15, and Miku was also level 15. Miku bragged about Hikarin's high MP, which was 75, making Kaito surprised because it was almost double his own MP. While they were talking, floating stones suddenly combined into a golem of stone. Eri stepped forward, and Hikarin prepared magic while Miku protected Hikarin. Eri attacked the golem of stone with her spear, not giving it a chance to counterattack. After a powerful strike, the golem of stone was defeated. As Eri was collecting items, another golem of copper appeared. Eri immediately instructed Hikarin to cast a spell, creating an earth wave that made the golem of copper's legs sink. Miku summoned a cat, which quickly flew to the opponent and surrounded the golem of copper, shooting green radioactive beams at it. Eri then instructed Hikarin to use both hellfire and thunder to create a giant fireball, and threw it at the golem of copper to burn it. Kaito watched in awe, impressed by Eri's and the team's strength, especially the MP-75. Eri continued to attack the golem of copper and defeated it. However, behind Hikarin and Miku, a golem of iron appeared. Kaito shot an arrow at the golem of iron, but it had no effect due to its sturdy body. The golem of iron attacked Hikarin and Miku, but Eri intervened just in time, telling the others to retreat. Eri once again bravely confronted the golem of iron, but it was very tough, making it hard for her attacks to be effective. Hikarin's fireball and Miku's cat attacks were also ineffective, and the cat was injured. Seeing the situation, Kaito decided to call out Sylphie and Luceria. While searching for their cards, he accidentally dropped a magical sword he had collected earlier. Remembering what he learned about magical swords, Kaito knew that their damage depended on the user's imagination. So Kaito decided to imagine defeating the opponent. Kaito asked Hikarin to use the earth wave, and Eri to attract the golem's attention. He moved to the back of the golem and stabbed through it with his imagined attack. As he imagined the golem exploding, it did indeed explode and disappear. Kaito's heroism earned him praise from the girls, and even the cat started to like him. After the event, the 4 of them went for coffee. Everyone was impressed with Kaito's magical sword, calling it a fantastic item. Kaito politely inquired about the cat's condition and was relieved to hear it was fine, and that it seemed to like him. Miku explained that servants don't appear on camera, and there are no photos or videos of them. Kaito realized that was why the guild staff didn't ask about Sylphie and Luceria. Miku mentioned that she bought Snatch from an auction and registered it at the guild, so many people knew about it. While Miku and Hikarin were putting keychains on their magic pouches as a memento of the event, Eri invited Kaito to join their party. Miku and Hikarin agreed. Eri said their current goal was the 2nd teleportation gate on the 11th floor. The 3 girls were eager for Kaito to join, but he felt embarrassed and conflicted because of his 2 servants. He feared they would be discovered if they saw the 2 girls. So, Kaito asked for more time to think and promised to give an answer later. The next day at the dungeon, Kaito faced Sylphie and Luceria's displeasure about forming a party. Luceria questioned why Kaito didn't visit her on his day off, and thought 3 people should be enough for the party. Even Sylphie, who usually supported him, didn't want to discuss it. Luceria was also jealous because Kaito called Sylphie Syl, while still calling her Luceria. Kaito thought hard and eventually chose the name Lusa for her. However, neither Sylphie nor Luceria cared much about the party. The next day, while going to school with Katsuragi, Kaito was invited to go shopping on Saturday, making him feel mixed emotions. His friends teased him about the 3 girls in the party, making them find dungeon interesting. As planned, Kaito waited for Katsuragi outside her house, and they went shopping together. When they saw a dungeon advertisement on the screen, Kaito froze but continued with Katsuragi's reminder. They had fun shopping, and Katsuragi tried on clothes. Kaito complimented her on every outfit, and after shopping, they went for a walk in the park. They also rowed a boat on the lake, which felt like a date. Kaito pushed away any romantic thoughts, thinking it was unlikely that Katsuragi would agree to date him. They had tea together, and Katsuragi blushed when they shared drinks using the same straw. As they headed home, Katsuragi saw another dungeon advertisement at the train station and wanted to take Kaito to a place. In front of a large building, she asked if the dungeon was nearby. Katsuragi felt regret about her father and wondered why he had to go into the dungeon. Their date ended softly and pleasantly. Kaito knew Katsuragi was worried about him, and he hoped one day to become a hero like her father to show her. Returning to the previous day, Kaito once again entered the dungeon with Luceria and Sylphie. He had just come up with a way to create a magical weapon by applying water magic to the blade and then freezing it. He thought it wouldn't be effective, but the combination produced unexpected results. He named the new weapon Frostblade, which delighted the angelic girl, but the demon girl criticized it. However, he dared not comment further. They were discussing the matter of joining other teams when Kaito had to explain that he had been invited by 3 girls to join their team. Sylphie thought it was because they must have made some mistakes, which led to a new member like him being invited. When he tried to clarify, Luceria assumed that he was lying because he thought they would eat all his magic stones. She even considered sending the guy to hell. The young man was so scared that he almost peed his pants, but he said, "Enough, I won't join them anymore." And so the girl let him go. However, the cute little girl agreed to let him join the other 3's party. "Is this what Master wants? How can I stop you?" Luceria had no choice but to agree, on the condition that he would have to be fed regularly, just like before. In addition, he would need to explain why he wanted to form a party with the others. He honestly said that he wanted to improve his fighting skills through teaming up. Otherwise, he would be left behind by the 2 girls, who were strong from the start and could continue to grow. He didn't want to rely on them and wanted to develop himself further. Hearing this, Sylphie and Luceria realized his sincerity and supported him enthusiastically. Returning home, the young man still didn't know how to call the girl to ask for her to join. Just then, he received a call from Katsuragi and answered. She had something to discuss, but the young man asked first. He lied and said that he was asking Shinji and Hayato about how to stay calm when calling girls. Hearing this, Katsuragi thought for a moment and then shared that she used to be very shy. Once, she had to perform in front of thousands of people, but at that time she was extremely embarrassed. Her father encouraged her by gently stroking her cheeks and giving her this advice. The young man, happy to be given an excuse, forgot about his lie and said that he could call the person himself. He didn't even bother to ask what Katsuragi wanted to discuss with him. How pathetic. Eri is practicing swordplay diligently until Kaito calls her. She asks him if he has decided, and he agrees but only wants to join on the weekend, since the beginning of the week is reserved for the other 2 girls. She agrees since everyone is busy. The next day, the 4 of them continue exploring together, but they notice a noticeable change in Kaito. He wants to solo 2 monsters, while the other 3 handle the rest. He uses his ice sword to easily defeat a golem, and since golems move rather slowly, he also takes down the second one. Miku summons a spirit beast and uses wind attacks to deal with the monsters, and Hikarin uses magic to disable 1 monster, allowing Eri to finish it off. They are all amazed by Kaito's ability to apply magic to weapons. His learning method is not typical of a solo player. To avoid revealing this, Kaito quickly changed the subject and praised Eri's swordsmanship, saying that it was outstanding. Eri said that she had been using the naginata since she was young, so it was like a part of her body now. Kaito was also hungry, and invited everyone to eat before returning. As he lay on the bed, he pondered the scene of the meal. What a contrast! While the rich girls brought all sorts of tables, chairs, and equipment, he was poor and had nothing but 2 girls who were each worth 2 billion. The next day, the group was ready to descend to the 8th floor. Fearing that there might be water there, Kaito had bought a flotation device as insurance, and also a magical gun designed to deal with underwater monsters. As they set foot on the 8th floor, they sent the spirit beast ahead. Miku's snatch spell, like Kaito's 2 girls, can sense monsters, although it had a smaller range. Upon reaching the lake, Kaito was immediately attacked by a monster, ruining his flotation device. Before he could do anything, he lost a significant amount of money. Miku then shot down the creature, but from then on, they continuously faced large monsters. Kaito, who couldn't swim, fell into the water and thought he was done for. Fortunately, the water was quite shallow. After grilling a squid, they encountered a school of aggressive tuna. Thankfully, each member of the group was highly skilled, so they managed without any issues. Seeing how effective Eri's weapon was, Kaido created a similar weapon using magic. However, he didn't notice that he had used up all his MP and ended up fainting. When he revived, he found that his 3 teammates, not wives, were taking care of him. They had used a recovery potion on him, which was why he woke up quickly. Since they were all on the same team, incidents like this were not too concerning. The day's work went well overall, as they collected a lot of rare magical stones. The girl asked about his recent fighting style, and he explained that he had modeled it after Eri's impressive strength. At that moment, Miku's snatch spell suddenly reacted strangely, and soon after, a terrifying monster appeared, causing everyone to fear its massive size. The dinosaur, which should only appear on deeper floors, had somehow found its way to them. It was truly absurd. Everyone chose to retreat, but before they could escape, the cave entrance was blocked by falling debris. Trapped, they were forced to fight despite their fear. In this difficult situation, Kaido proved his mettle. He directed everyone to coordinate their attacks. Hikarin used magic to immobilize the monster, but it was ineffective since the monster had legs. Miku stayed behind to protect her friend while using her spirit beast to distract the monster. Kaido positioned himself to create an ice sword and used the sword's skill to make it explode. However, the damage was too low to make the dinosaur stop. Taking advantage of the moment when it was in pain, Eri ran from its tail to its head and drove her sword into its brain, hoping the attack would be effective. Unfortunately, the dinosaur had a head as big as a melon, so the strike didn't deal a fatal blow. Eri tried to hold her ground, but human strength has limits, and she was thrown into the water. Since the water was shallow, Eri was left in pain and unable to fight. Her dream of becoming a hero was shattered as she was defeated in such a manner. The dinosaur then turned its attention to the remaining 2. Knowing that there was no other choice, Kaido summoned the strong and adorable Luceria and Sylphie. Hikarin, who was so scared that she fainted, was unconscious for a while. The light from Kaido's summoning card drew everyone's attention to the angel and demon who had confronted the dinosaur. With their master's request to defeat the monster, they immediately cast a magic that combined lightning and fire, killing it. Once the dinosaur was destroyed, everyone was surprised by the sudden appearance of the 2 girls. Miku immediately ran to hug Sylphie, finding her extremely cute and thanking the little angel. Hikarin also liked Luceria, but was a bit shy and didn't dare to hug her like that, asking to touch her a little, but the little girl didn't let her and she cried, having no choice but to let Luceria touch her a little. Eri, happy for this opportunity, also wanted to touch them, but had to maintain her strong image. Kaido explains that they are his 2 servants. The 3 girls have no ill intentions and just want to be friends with Luceria and Sylphie, so they all go to the bath together, and Eri is excited to be able to touch and interact with them. Sylphie and Luceria suddenly have 3 fans, and when Kaido is not around, Eri is no longer shy and asks for permission to hug them. Meanwhile, Kaido is bathing with his familiars, and he can hear the girls chatting excitedly. That afternoon, when they leave, they see Miku and Hikarin's parents have come to pick them up by car. Eri also comes from a good family, but she can't compare to the 2 of them. He then asked about her desire to become a hero. Since she was little, her father taught her to be strong to fight against injustice and protect the people she loved. That's why Eri became an adventurer, to train and become stronger every day. Kaido also shared that desire, so he was quite happy. He was even invited to camp at her college, Okawa Academy, which Katsuragi wanted to attend the next day. When he arrived at school, he shared the invitation with his 2 friends. They also wanted to go, but he intended to flirt with the girl instead. Shinji and Hayato joked that since he was on a date, it didn't matter and he should just do it. Feeling embarrassed, Kaido explained that it was just a shopping trip. Katsuragi and her friends heard about this and decided to go. Kaito, feeling very shy, finally mustered up the courage to invite her to the camping trip to Okawa. She agreed and even wanted to invite him to her school, since that's where she would be applying next year. Unfortunately, the 2 friends were rejected when they tried to invite the girls along, so they ended up going somewhere else. On the weekend, as promised, they went to check out the camping gear. The outfit Kaido picked out was already worn by Haruka. The pair started heading towards Okawa Academy, but there was a palpable awkwardness between them. Even though they'd been friends since childhood, Kaido felt a little shy and hesitant to sit close to Haruka. In reality, she would have visited the academy regardless, but being invited made it infinitely more enjoyable. It felt almost like a date, causing Kaido to overthink things. He liked her, but his insecurities made him doubt his worthiness. Joining them on this trip were Shinji and Hayato. Their primary motivation was to check out the girls, with the academy tour being a mere excuse. They assured Kaito and Haruka that they wouldn't interfere, urging them to relax and enjoy the outing. It was Saturday, a day Kaito would normally spend in the dungeon, but he decided to forget about that and focus on the fun. Upon arriving, the four friends were awestruck by the academy's grandeur. It truly lived up to its reputation as a school for the wealthy, offering every amenity imaginable to its students. Kaito imagined himself enjoying the cherry blossoms with Haruka if they both got accepted. He quickly reminded himself not to get ahead of himself. He needed to focus on studying hard to even have a chance of getting in. As they approached the registration area, they bumped into Eri, much to the surprise of the others. She was stunningly beautiful. Haruka was thrilled they had arrived and hoped to learn a lot during the tour. Kaito introduced his friends, and Hayato and Shinji, captivated by Eri's beauty, eagerly greeted her. When Eri inquired about Kaito's girlfriend, he explained that Haruka was just a close friend, not his girlfriend. Eri seemed relieved to hear that Kaito was single. Even Kaito himself was confused by her reaction. The four friends continued their tour, eventually asking Kaito how he knew Eri. Kaito blurts out that he met Eri in the dungeon, which angers Haruka. He quickly adds that Eri invited them to the open house today. Luckily, they're having fun, so Haruka gently reminds him to keep his promise not to mention their dungeon adventure. She also warns him to be careful not to worry Eri too much, knowing how deeply Haruka cares for him. Continuing their tour, the four friends are amazed by the academy's facilities. Everything is great, making it an ideal place for students. Unfortunately, Kaito and his friends know that their grades aren't good enough to dream of enrolling next year. Kaito is determined to do his best to study with Haruka, even if it means pushing himself to the limit. As for the tuition, it's expensive, but Kaito has saved up from his dungeon work, so that's not a big concern. As they sat enjoying the breeze, two other girls approached. Kaito introduced them as Miku and Hikari, surprising everyone, especially Haruka, who was used to Kaito calling her by her nickname. The girls, who were too young to apply to the academy, came because they heard Kaito would be there. Like the others, they asked if the girl next to him was his girlfriend. Kaito insisted that they were just neighbors, which angered Haruka. However, the girls were delighted, as they both had a crush on Kaito. They chatted, asking how they met. Kaito, remembering Haruka's warning, only said that they met in the dungeon, with Haruka barely able to contain her disappointment in front of strangers. Eri, having finished her work, came to join them. She invited everyone to lunch, much to the four friends' surprise. They realized that the academy provided luxurious meals for lunch. It was a relief to learn that lunch was completely free, with all meals priced at a flat rate of 2,000 yen. The food was delicious, prepared by skilled chefs. This was another reason to strive to get into Okawa. While Haruka went to get a drink, Kaito offered to join her. Taking advantage of the situation, Shinji and Hayato struck up a conversation with the three girls. They told them about their past as adventurers, which the girls were very interested in. They downplayed their experiences, claiming that they were adventurers in name only, having given up after a particularly brutal encounter with a goblin. They complained about the many rules of the dungeon, expressing that it would be much more fun to have a close friend by their side. When the pair return, they overhear the others excitedly recounting their dungeon adventures. Haruka is confused as to why anyone would be willing to put themselves in such danger. They continue their tour, discovering a hot spring for winter use. This reminds Kaito of a childhood incident when he nearly drowned and was saved by Haruka. He recalls another time when she bravely protected him from a wolf attack. Seeing them so happy, Miku and Hikari feel jealous. They are jealous of the attention Kaito and Haruka receive, while two of Kaito's friends even invite Eri out on a date in the future. At the large sports field, Hikari is distracted by Kaito and trips. He quickly rushes to catch her, hugging her like a princess, a gesture that moves everyone. They realize that the uncomfortable feeling they are experiencing is actually love. Miku, feeling left out, grumbles at being ignored. Suddenly, a balloon flies towards Miku. Kaito, in a heroic display, shields her. Miku initially acts tough, but she is genuinely touched by his protection. Shinji and Hayato are amazed by Kaito's new power. Eri, brightly inviting everyone to the dojo, her pride and joy. However, the lingering discomfort she felt earlier still distracts her. Kaito's compliment finally makes her smile, and she realizes that she is falling for him. As the day draws to a close, they exchange contact information, promising to hang out again. Both parties agree that it was a wonderful day. Eri expresses her gratitude for their visit, All three girls are happy, having made some fond memories. On their way back, Hayato jokingly suggested to Shinji that they go back to the dungeon, hoping to maybe win over one of the three girls there. Kaito is speechless at this suggestion. Later that evening, the two best friends finally make it back to their familiar street. Kaito promises to study hard to get into that prestigious school. His friend is thrilled and asks who his type is among the three girls. He says he doesn't like any of them because the one he likes is actually her. But before he could say more, he chickens out, promising to tell her someday but not now. Besides this, Haruka brings up the topic of calling each other by their names. Everyone else does it, so why not them? He's a bit clueless and doesn't realize Haruka is jealous, leading to a little argument. Back home, Kaito wonders if Haruka is actually jealous. He dismissed the idea, thinking there's no way she could like him. What a fool he is. Kaito returns to the first floor to search for Rimuru, but still can't find him. He easily wipes out the slimes with his bug spray. This job is just to earn enough food for Luceria and Sylphie. Luceria scolds him for leaving them yesterday to hang out with a girl. He explains he was invited on a school tour, but Luceria, being a demon, doesn't know what a school is. Sylphie explains it's a place for humans to learn. Kaito apologizes, promising to make it up to them with candy. Luceria demands 300 candies, which Kaito can't afford. Just then, a rare slime appears, but Luceria destroys it before it can drop any rare items. As a reward, Kaito promises each of them 10 candies to use when they need energy. With snacks in hand, they're happy again, just reminding him not to leave them alone for too long. While searching for loot, Kaito finds a glove that turns out to be quite useful. By consuming mana, he can make his attacks invisible. Intrigued, he tests it out and finds it works perfectly. Combining his water gun with the glove's invisibility and his magic sword, he creates a surprisingly effective attack. This new trick could be very useful. Eri and her group arrive, and they prepare to descend to the 9th floor together. Since Kaito had already revealed Luceria and Sylphie's existence, he wasn't worried about exposing them anymore. Seeing him close to Eri, Miku, and Ikari, Luceria and Sylphie got jealous. Kaito assured them he'd try to get into Eri's school, making studying together easier. He asked if his best friend could join them, and after some hesitation, the girls agreed. He wanted Luceria and Sylphie to support him, but seeing them sulking wasn't good. Miku and Ikari found them adorable and pinched their cheeks. Eri also found them cute, but kept her feelings in check. They decided to continue exploring, knowing giving up would be boring. Luceria confidently assured them she'd protect them. If things got bad, they could escape using Sylphie's barrier. Further down, they encountered a powerful demon, a creature usually found on lower floors. Luceria, sensing a beautiful woman, attacked. Sylphie immediately used her barrier to defend them, forcing the others to attack from a distance. Hikari created mud to trap the demon while the others attacked. Luceria's fire magic barely scratched it. The demon could breathe fire, rendering fire attacks useless. Sylphie's barrier blocked the damage, but the heat was intense. Things were getting tough. Luceria's strongest attack didn't work, and Miku's spirit beast's wind attacks only chipped away at its health. This demon was much stronger than the Orthros Kaito fought before. Kaito came up with a plan, telling Luceria to attack while he distracted the demon. He figured its belly was vulnerable, so he aimed for that area. Understanding, Luceria used her Hellfire Barrage, hitting the demon's belly and causing it pain. Sylphie was ordered to attack with her Divine Spear. The girls would use their combined attack to slowly drain its health. The angel like Sylphie transformed, using her spear to strike, but it didn't pierce its hide. Luceria continued to burn it, turning it into a roasted dog. The others outside used their guns to inflict additional damage. Seeing the demon about to breathe fire, Kaito used his new technique, combining magic ice with his sword slash. Noticing one head still intended to attack, he shoved a water ball into its mouth to silence it. Seizing the opportunity, the team launched a full-scale attack. The demon had over 1,000 health points, so it took a while to whittle it down. Continuous damage weakened Orthros' defenses, allowing the team to deal more damage. Kaito delivered the final blow with a beautiful long-range slash. Everyone was thrilled to have defeated the monster, comparing it to a boss fight. This was their first victory on the 9th floor, and everyone was exhausted, so they decided to rest there. Kaito praised Luceria and Sylphie, rewarding them with candies. The question arose, why was Orthros on this floor, undetected? Suddenly, Sylphie sensed a much stronger magical presence than the previous demon. It seemed this entity was behind bringing the monster here. The newcomer was a demon similar to Luceria, but not of noble lineage. Seeing their strength, he wanted to play with them. Everyone understood that running was futile, so they chose to fight. He initially intended to spare Luceria due to their shared traits, but seeing her on the opposing side, he changed his mind, wanting to kill them all. As he attacked, Sylphie erected her barrier. Knowing this wouldn't last, Kaido gave Sylphie a larger candy to eat, allowing her to maintain the barrier longer. They unleashed all their attacks on the demon, but they barely scratched him. Even Luceria's attacks were ineffective. He directly took a bullet to prove his strength. With over 1,800 health remaining, they knew they couldn't keep this up. Their magic would run out, and they'd be defeated. Luceria proposed teaming up with Sylphie, believing their combined power was the key to victory. Kaido worried about the others, but they assured him they could handle it. A little danger was better than everyone dying. Eri was confident she could block the demon's attacks. Kaido agreed to let Sylphie dissolve the barrier to focus on fighting. Miku and Hikari, being weaker, would stay in the back. While the demon arrogantly absorbed their attacks, Sylphie and Luceria combined their powers, but it still wasn't enough to harm him. Bored, the demon teleported to attack Kaido, but Eri intercepted him. She was sent flying, losing her ability to fight. Enraged, Kaido counterattacked with his magic sword, causing the demon's weapon to explode. This weapon was a gift from the Demon Duke, so its destruction infuriated him. He punched Kato, who mitigated the damage with an ice shield, but still felt the pain. Seeing their master injured for the first time, Sylphie and Luceria were furious. Along with the other two, they unleashed their strongest spells. Kaido used a healing potion to keep fighting, but Miku was worried. He asked her to do something. Miku, with her spirit beast, stood before the demon, distracting him with a barrage of bullets. Kaido seized the opportunity, stabbing the demon in the back while activating the sword's explosion effect, causing him pain. This tactic was effective, but the demon used a healing spell. They hadn't anticipated this, and soon faced the demon's wrath. Kaido was sent flying, nearly unconscious. Eri recovered slightly, trying to protect the others, but it was futile. One by one, the remaining members fell. Desperate, Luceria shielded Kaito, telling him to run. As the only male, he couldn't abandon the girls. Luceria was thrown towards Kaito. She desperately thought of a solution when a new skill appeared. It was a combination of Kaito and Luceria's powers. By consuming his blood, she could enhance her strength. This was their last resort. Kaito asked her to use Violent Beauty, a powerful technique. Luceria hesitated, knowing it would drain Kaito's life force. But it was better than dying. She agreed. Luceria absorbed Kaito's life force, transforming into her true form for a short time. She lost half of her blood, but became a beautiful and powerful female demon. Kaito was shocked by Luceria's larger form. It was not her ultimate form, but it was more than enough to defeat the demon. The demon, unaware of such a technique, was still arrogant. Seeing his arrogance, Luceria decided to teach him a lesson. Without further ado, she unleashed her Death God, skill, turning the demon into dust. The battle was over, but the depletion of her life force weakened Kaito. He asked Luceria to return his power, but she asked to be treated better, wanting to be pampered like Sylphie before unleashing her skill. She even asked to be praised for her beauty. Although she was indeed beautiful, her cruelty was disturbing. After the skill was dispelled, Kaito breathed a sigh of relief, grateful to still be alive. They all rested for a while to recover. They had cheated death, a testament to their resilience. Defeating the powerful demon had leveled everyone up. Kaito had even learned a new skill, but he knew he would only use the beauty of violence, technique in dire situations. They celebrated their victory and received their reward, a large, unusual blue mana stone from Orthros. Since Kaito delivered the final blow, the girls insisted he keep it. They were already wealthy, so selling it wouldn't make much difference. The second reward was even more valuable, the demon's servant card. Eri suggested letting Luceria decide its fate, as she was the one who defeated the demon. Kaito considered selling it, but Luceria scoffed, saying it was just a low-level demon. Hearing this, he felt a pang of sympathy and decided to use the card. He figured its power could be helpful, but when he activated it, he was shocked to find himself facing a child identical to Luceria and Sylphie. He realized his decision had been foolish. He could have sold the card for a fortune, at least 500 million yen. The child introduced himself as Berlia, summoned to serve Kaito. He explained that all summoned servants are returned to their original form, and it would take time to regain their previous appearance. Knowing Kaito didn't like him, Berlia tried to win him over. He'd serve faithfully, unlike Luceria's initial rebellious nature. Kaido, realizing he couldn't return Berlia to his previous form, accepted him as a new member. They sold the Mana Stone for 24 million yen. They recounted their encounter with Orthros, omitting the later events. The guild sent a team to investigate the powerful monster on the 9th floor. Kaido wanted to split the money equally, but the girls refused. They insisted he keep it all. They then went out for a celebratory meal and taught Kaido about taxes. As they headed home, they couldn't believe the day's events. A few days later, Hikari falls seriously ill. Her friend Miku calls to check on her, and Hikari lies about her condition to reassure everyone. She even promises to meet up the following week to try out their new skills. Fast forward to the next week, the group heads to a dungeon to test Berlia's new abilities. Berlia agrees, but points out that he doesn't have a weapon, even though he's a knight. Kaido is surprised, remembering seeing he use a sword in their previous fight. Luceria reminds him that it was actually Kaido who destroyed that sword. With no other options, Kaido rummages through his backpack and finds an iron staff. It's not a sword, but it will have to do. Berlia hesitates, but the others scold he, likely because he's a boy and they're being prejudiced. It's their only choice, so he reluctantly agrees to use the staff. Surprisingly, Berlia's technique is so good that he easily defeats the monsters with the staff. Kaido and Eri are impressed by his swordsmanship, praising his skill and suggesting he could have finished the monsters much faster with a real sword. Luceria, however, criticizes he, noticing his movements are slower. Berlia explains that his body isn't suited to his current skill level. If he levels up, he'll be much stronger. Berlia pleads with Kaido to keep he by his side, not wanting to be discarded. He longs to be with the two beautiful little princesses and be useful to them. Sylphie and Luceria, delighted by Berlia's sudden proclamation, happily accept he as their new teammate. The others are stunned by Berlia's persuasive skills, which seem to surpass even his swordsmanship. Kaido thinks that with enough practice, Berlia will become a true sword. Impressed by Berlia's eloquence, Kaido eagerly anticipates her future performances. Berlia, relieved to be accepted, is overjoyed. Having arrived under unusual circumstances, he feared being isolated. Later, they test Berlia's second ability, which requires he to lose blood to activate. Berlia's dark power can heal, but it can't restore lost blood. Since Kaido is currently unharmed, the ability is ineffective. Besides healing, it can slowly restore stamina, preventing death. After using Luceria's gluttonous skill, Kaido's HP plummets. If Berlia's dark power could restore stamina faster, they might become invincible. Luceria, eager to try her. Violent Beauty. Technique again urges Kaido to let her. He hesitates, knowing his blood is already below half and another hit could be fatal. Luceria insists it's fine because of Berlia healing ability, but Kaido remains unconvinced, leading to a tug-of-war that ends with him tripping and falling. Seeing Kaido's injured hand, Berlia wants to demonstrate her healing skill again. After activating Dark Killer, Kaido's wounds heal instantly, leaving him pain-free. He realizes this will save them a lot of money on healing potions in the future. Berlia beams with pride at the praise. Next, it's the other girls' turn to showcase their new skills. Hikari and Eri team up first. Hikari freezes the monster completely, immobilizing it. This allows Eri to power up her weapon and deliver a fatal blow. The others are thrilled by this perfect combination. Hikari's ability to control enemy movement is invaluable, while Eri delivers the finishing blow. Then it's Miku and her familiar's turn. They've learned complementary skills. Miku creates illusions that trick the monsters into thinking they're under attack. While Miku creates illusions, Snatch unleashes a special attack using sharp, hard feathers, striking a wide area. This powerful combination allows them to eliminate 3 monsters simultaneously without breaking a sweat. Witnessing his teammates growing stronger, Kaido feels reassured. Sylphie alerts them to more monsters ahead, and they decide to test her final new skill, the Warrior Song. This song is said to boost the stats of all allies. In Kaido's eyes, the monsters now move as slow as snails, making them easy to predict and defeat. Berlia and Luceria quickly finish off the remaining 2. While the song does increase their power, it's not as potent as Luceria's Violent Beauty. However, the trade-off for that skill is too great, making it suitable only for emergencies. Kaido asks Berlia how he feels about the song, and he praises Sylphie, noting its effectiveness depends on the trust between the user and the recipients. The longer they stay together, the more powerful the song becomes. The 3 older girls encourage Berlia, and even Luceria, as a fellow demon, offers words of support and encouragement. Berlia vows to become a skilled swordsman to protect everyone. Mentioning swords reminds Kaito of something. He asks his teammates to wait while he dashes to the nearest shop in the dungeon to buy Berlia a new sword. Berlia is overjoyed to receive the new sword, especially since it's a gift from Kaito. Initially, Kaito thought she might not like it, but Berlia is deeply grateful for the thoughtful present. With her ideal weapon in hand, Berlia demonstrates her exceptional swordsmanship, effortlessly taking down 3 powerful monsters alone. The other 6 members watch in awe, realizing they now have a formidable close combat fighter on their team. Berlia also consumes far less stamina than the other 2 gluttonous members, making her a valuable asset. Kaito asks Berlia to teach him how to use a sword like her. She happily agrees and wants to start immediately, but it's too late, and they need to head home. Eri suggests they meet at her house tomorrow for a study session, as planned previously. Sylphie and Luceria, feeling a pang of jealousy at Kaito spending time with other girls, can only offer their silent disapproval. Kaito apologizes and promises to visit them on Sunday, much to Berlia's delight. The next day, Kaito takes Haruka, Shinji, and Hayato back to Eri's house. They've heard it's a dojo, but they're shocked by its sheer size. It's as big as several high schools combined. 2 rich girls are there, confirming that it's indeed Eri's residence. Shinji and Hayato try to make conversation, but Eri only has eyes for Kaito. Inside, the boys marvel at Eri's large garden. Miku and Hikari, who have become friends with Eri, drive Haruka to the house, leaving the 3 boys to walk down an incredibly long driveway. The girls arrive first and are warmly greeted by Eri, who expresses her gratitude for her willingness to help her study for her upcoming exams. Eri's family has a long tradition of martial arts, which they continue to practice in their fully equipped dojo. The dojo offers a variety of practice areas, including a space for meditation under a waterfall and a large courtyard for physical training. Despite having a car, Eri enjoys running around, which explains the large size of the dojo. Exhausted from walking, the boys finally arrive and are immediately pulled into training by the girls. Eri, a thoughtful host, has arranged a study session in the dojo to help everyone focus. Everyone chooses their seats, hoping to be near Kaito. Haruka feels a little jealous when Eri asks Kaito to sit next to her. Kaito struggles with math, but Eri is very good at it and is a great tutor. Shinji and Hayato try to impress the girls by offering to help, but the youngest girl, Hikari, prefers Haruka's support. Kaito feels confident that Haruka will be a good tutor because she is extremely good at math. He compliments Haruka in front of everyone, making her blush. The other boys tease them, making the girls flustered. Unable to concentrate, Eri suggests they go to the waterfall to practice. Kaito refuses because of the cold weather, but the girls are eager to go. Outnumbered, the boys are forced to follow. Everyone changed into new swimsuits, but before even getting into the water, they were already shivering from the cold. They questioned if they were going to faint from the cold, but Eri confidently displayed her exceptional composure. Miku felt the chill but could handle it, while Haruka, experiencing this for the first time, remained professional. After a while, the 4 girls felt their moods lift considerably. Kaito, seeing his friend worried, found her appearance in her wet swimsuit endearing. When Haruka was complimented on her cuteness, she invited the 3 boys to join them. The boys, however, were frozen solid after taking the plunge, and the memory of the icy water haunted them all night. Eri thanked everyone for coming, noting the stark contrast between the girls' enjoyment and the boys' misery. The girls expressed their desire to return and were warmly welcomed by Eri. The next day, true to his word, Kaito returned to his dungeon-like study space. Lucelia and Sylphie interrogated him about his activities with the girls the previous day. Sensing their excitement and desire to descend to the 10th floor to confront the 3 jealous girls, Kaito knew they suspected something had happened between him and the girls. Hikari, recently more open about her feelings, wished to be loved by Kaito even more. She hoped their happy days together would last forever. Touched by Hikari's words, Miku took her hand and promised to always be by her side. Just then, 3 powerful monsters appeared. Sylphie immediately used her warrior's chant to buff the entire team. Taking advantage of the moment, Hikari unleashed a wide area freeze, allowing the 3 close combat experts to attack. They charged in, not giving Luceria a chance to act. They effortlessly defeated countless monsters. It seemed they could easily progress to the next floor. More importantly, the little demon wanted to show off, complaining that Kaito wasn't paying attention to her. As soon as they reached the 10th floor, Hikari collapsed. It turned out she was still sick, but had pushed herself to join everyone. Seeing her friend faint, Miku was heartbroken and didn't know what to do. 2 years ago, Miku was the reigning queen of the card game scene. Challengers would constantly show up, eager to test their skills against her. Miku, knowing she was destined to win, would still accept their challenges. Her deck was stacked with rare and powerful cards, making her victories swift and decisive. Some opponents, unable to accept defeat, would beg for rematches. But Miku would politely decline. One particularly persistent challenger started criticizing her, claiming that someone who relied on buying rare cards wasn't truly skilled. Miku agreed, stating that having a deck full of rare cards didn't automatically make it strong. True mastery, she argued, came from a deep understanding of each card and how to use it effectively. His words struck a chord, and the challenger walked away defeated. Miku, however, felt a pang of boredom. That is, until Hikari arrived. This girl, a year younger than Miku, was a huge admirer of her playing style and challenged her to a duel. Charmed by Hikari's enthusiasm, Miku readily accepted. As the match began, Miku was stunned. Her opponent wielded a deck and strategy eerily similar to her own. It was clear Hikari had studied her moves closely. Gradually, Miku realized Hikari was also a wealthy heiress, and her admiration only endeared her further. Miku's deck was built for swift, aggressive attacks, while Hikari's, though inspired by Miku, leaned towards a defensive approach. This ultimately led to Hikari's defeat. Overjoyed, Miku offered to help Hikari find a deck that better suited her style. A strong bond quickly formed between them. They were a formidable duo, their wealth and shared passion allowing them to indulge in their every whim. They even decided to enter a card game tournament as a team, vowing to remain inseparable. The duo's talent shone brightly, and they quickly dominated the tournament, claiming victory. But their triumph was short-lived. During the awards ceremony, Hikari's illness flared up, turning the joyous occasion into a scene of heartbreak. It was then that Miku learned the devastating truth. Hikari was suffering from a rare and incurable disease. Back at the hospital, Eri urged Miku to go home and rest, as the doctors had said Hikari wouldn't be waking up anytime soon. Miku's insistence on staying sparked curiosity in Kaito, who naively suggested using a high-grade recovery potion to heal her. Miku, however, knew better. It can mend broken bones, but it can't cure this, she explained, her voice heavy with sorrow. Just then, Hikari's parents arrived, their faces etched with worry. Miku apologized profusely for what had happened, but they were understanding and even grateful. Hikari had spoken so fondly of her friends, and they knew their names, Kaito and Ari. Unable to bear the pain, Miku rushed out of the room, with Eri close behind, worried about her friend's emotional state. On the rooftop, Eri finally asked about Hikari's illness. Miku explained that it was a rare and incurable disease that gradually weakened her internal organs, leaving her increasingly frail. Despite the advancements in medicine, there was no known cure. The weight of the situation hung heavy in the air. This might be the last time they saw Hikari awake. Her father feared she wouldn't make it to see the new year. Kaito, his voice thick with emotion, asked if Hikari knew about her condition. At first, her parents had tried to shield her, but Hikari, with her sharp intellect, had quickly pieced together the truth. Despite the gravity of her illness, she chose to hide her pain, always wearing a bright smile to reassure her loved ones. Inside the dungeon, Hikari's stats had been adjusted to a lower level, masking her true weakness. Her father was surprised to learn they had ventured into the dungeon, but he wasn't angry. He understood it was Hikari's choice. To spare her parents from worry, Hikari had lied, telling them she was simply playing at the park near the guild. In reality, she had been exploring the treacherous labyrinth. The question lingered, why would someone so frail venture into the perilous depths of a dungeon? Miku, determined to save her friend, had been searching for answers. Hikari, aware of the legendary elixir, had insisted on accompanying Miku on her quest. Initially, Miku refused, fearing for Hikari's health. The dungeon was fraught with danger, and Hikari's condition could worsen at any moment. But Hikari, knowing the risks, couldn't bear the thought of Miku facing them alone. Determined to find the elixir, she pleaded with Miku, promising to keep her illness a secret from their parents. Hikari's hope was to study the elixir and find a cure for herself and others suffering from similar ailments. Of course, she would use it on herself first, but her altruism touched Miku deeply. Defeated, Miku agreed to embark on this dangerous journey together. The two friends embraced, their hearts filled with determination to find the elusive artifact. Hikari's father, witnessing their bond, was speechless with gratitude. Miku reassured him that she would do everything in her power to help Hikari. Her words echoed a sentiment Kaito had heard before, stirring a sense of déjà vu. Hikari apologized for keeping her secret, but Eri, understanding and compassionate, offered her unwavering support. They would face this challenge together, even if the elixir's existence remained uncertain. Fueled with hope, Eri shared their belief in the existence of elixir, encouraging her friends to persevere. Eri suggested they go deeper into the dungeon the next day, increasing their chances of finding rare loot. Hikari's father, overwhelmed with gratitude, could only bow his head in thanks. This was a glimmer of hope, perhaps the last chance for his daughter to survive. The next day, they descended to the 10th floor, a vast expanse of sand filled with desert creatures. When the three camels charged towards them, it was Sylphie, whose enchanting melody had increased their stats. Kaito assigned Eri to the right wing, Miku to the left, intending to take the center position himself, but Berlia eagerly took the middle position. Luceria also wanted to join the fight, but with only 3 camels, there was not enough room for everyone. Miku began her attack with her charm ability, disabling the beasts. The little snatch quickly finished them off. Eri, with her newfound skill, took down the target with a single accurate strike. Berlia, displaying incredible agility, easily dodged and delivered critical hits. Unfortunately, the camels only obtained ordinary magic stones, not the elixir they sought. Kaito, aware of their rare target, urged them to persevere, defeating as many monsters as possible. Luceria, saddened by Hikari's illness, found solace in their growing relationship. However, the desert environment proved challenging. The high temperatures made raising monsters even more tiring. Kaito inquired about the health of his companions. Sylphie felt a little uncomfortable, while Luceria, who was used to the harsh conditions, remained unaffected. Suddenly, Berlia sensed danger and warned Kaito to move. Sylphie repeated the warning, detecting the threat lurking beneath the sand. Before Kaito could react, a monstrous creature emerged from the ground, binding him. Luceria, enraged, prepared to attack, but Miku intervened, using her hypnotic abilities to subdue the beast. This gave Luceria an opening to attack, but before she could unleash her power, their brave knight charged forward, his blade cutting the beast to pieces, avenging the master it had entangled. The knight, overjoyed at his heroic deed, was met with a scathing rebuke from Luceria for nearly jeopardizing Kaito's safety. Kaito, placating the fiery demon, promised to let her take the lead next time and expressed his gratitude to Berlia for his quick thinking. Despite their efforts, the day ended without finding the elixir. Visiting Hikari, they were greeted with a surprising request. She longed to witness Kaito's near-death experience. She expressed her desire to recover quickly and rejoin them in their dungeon explorations. Miku, though heartbroken, agreed, masking her sorrow to spare Hikari from worry. Outside, Eri finds Miku weeping, overwhelmed by the realization that Hikari could still smile even when facing her own mortality. Eri escorted Miku home, promising to continue their quest the next day. Determined to become a worthy hero of protecting her beloved friend, Eri's resolve strengthened. Back home, Kaito received a call from Haruka, inquiring about their progress. He hesitated to reveal Hikari's illness. Memories surfaced of Haruka's father, who had instilled in her a desire to explore the dungeon's mysteries. He believed that uncovering its secrets could save millions of lives. Inspired by Haruka's father's words, Kaito returned to the dungeon with renewed determination, accompanied by his 3 companions. They faced a formidable monster, but Kaito felt no fear. He aspired to follow in Haruka's father's footsteps, becoming a beacon of hope and a savior for those in need.